Welcome back, adventurers. In this week's episode, we take you along on a journey as we're asked to captain a boat from Tahiti to Fiji, a passage full of beauty, challenges, and raw power of the ocean. We share what it's really like to be surrounded by lightning storms left, right, and centre, and how we prepare when nature decides to remind us of who's really in charge. So, kick off your shoes and come barefoot with us, and let's set sail into the heart of the South Pacific. We are John and Ellie, the Barefoot Doctors, and we're taking you with us from the first spark of an idea to sailing the most breathtaking corners of the planet. So, join us on this journey because life is better barefoot. Let's sail from Tahiti to Fiji, he said. It'll be wonderful, he said. Trade winds behind us, clear skies, starry nights, smooth sailing, he said. He lied. There was lightning storms. There was a massive 900-mile storm right in front of us, right where we needed to go.
Yeah, 50-knot winds, 5-metre seas. We did not want to be in that.
Unfortunately, we had to get rich back to Tonga, which is where the storm was in front of. And you know how they say, never do a delivery trip, never be on a time limit? Well, we were.
So the big question is, are we still married? Did our relationship survive this storm? Well, watch to the end and find out.
So guys, just a reminder to like, subscribe and ding the notification bell because then you get notified when a new video comes out. Hi folks, well guess where we are?
We are on a Leopard 45.
But it's not ours, it's somebody else's. It's actually our friends. And they blame us for buying this Leopard. So
Well, a lot of people do that, don't they?
Yeah.
We are why they bought that 50 or that Leopard 45.
But anyway,
That's great.
What are we doing actually?
We are helping these guys. These guys bought moorings, chartered Leopard, and they are sailing it back to their home in Dubai and then on to the Mediterranean. They did have a skipper to take it on the first leg from Tahiti to Phuket in Thailand, but their skipper had a problem getting a visa in French Polynesia. So suddenly they were
Skipperless.
They were skipperless, exactly. And they reached out generally and we said, oh,
because the
why not?
Because our Portofino is not ready yet and we had some spare time. So we decided, well, you know what, let's do it. We can help these guys out and it'll be lovely to, you know, sail 2,000 miles on a crossing in French Polynesia to Fiji.
So the plan is to fly into Tahiti, ourselves and the other two crew, as well as the owners Rich and Beck, and we would leave relatively soon and sail the 2,000 miles to Fiji. But what do they say?
Never be on a deadline, never have to do a delivery trip where you needed to be somewhere at a certain time at a certain place. And that's exactly what happened.
But also, when you make plans, God just laughs.
Yeah.
As the paperwork was being done to check out, there was some problem, the customs said, and there was delays. There was some paperwork problem that had to be sorted out over time between the moorings and the customs officials. It wasn't the owner's fault in any way, but we sat there passively waiting, irritated and frustrated as the days passed. At the end of the first week, there was a public holiday on the Thursday. Because there's a public holiday on Thursday, the customs office didn't open on Friday either. So we had to wait another 4 days. The next week, the same things happened day after day. There was more delays. Thursday was another public holiday in Tahiti. And so the customs officer took another 4-day weekend, and that meant another 4 days break.
The positive side is we use this time to prep the boat for things like, you know, connections for the Oxley. So you want to tell them about that?
So as the famous expression goes, sailing is doing boat work in exotic locations.
Certainly is.
So here we are in Tahiti. We are doing some backing plates for the pad eye on the bows of the Leopard 45 so that we can hoist the Oxley, which will be very exciting. So here we are at the bicycle area. They have really nice metal brace that we have been using as a workshop.
The aluminium plates had to be cut and shaped to fit. The internal shelf had to be removed to allow access to that front bow. Holes had to be drilled to match the pad eye bolts. There were multiple dry fittings until it slipped in properly. The epoxy and spheres were mixed to fill in the space behind the plate. And then the really messy job of trying to get the epoxy in behind the plate without getting it all over your hands and all over the boat. Silicone seal the pad eye from the outside, tighten the bolts, clean away the excess epoxy, and a job well done. So this nose cone is solid glass. I don't know how thick it was, but it looked like when we drilled it about that thick, which is pretty bloody strong.
We are going up the mast to check all the gear at the top, all the rigging of the shrouds here. Of the cables out of there. Okay, that's all good. That's fine. So there we have Papiete. There's the industrial port. There's our other yacht. Lovely view. So here we are in the engine room of the Leopard 45s, and we have our trusty Yanmar 45 horsepowers. This is the exhaust. Water from the engine, cooling water goes there and then into the exhaust, and then it goes out into the sea out there. So what we do is we take this pipe, get a new pipe and run it up from here, run it up to there, loop of pipe, and then another pipe coming down, going back into where the water was going to go anyway. That high loop prevents water pressure being forced back through the exhaust and then into the engine, which obviously is where the catastrophe happens. Okay, so now we've got cable ties holding it against up there, cable ties holding it down there, obviously secure down here. Now we need to turn the engines on and make sure there's no leaks.
Okay, let's briefly talk about the other crew. So there was 2 more crew. One whose name was John, who was a follower of ours as well. The other person that was on the crew was a French chef, which we got really excited about. So Cecile was just awesome. So there were 6 crew altogether, which is quite comfortable.
So John came from the US and bought the Starling, so that had to be fitted as well, which was excellent because that meant on the crossing we would have access to up-to-date weather forecasts, and that turned out to be absolutely critical, but more of that later. When the second long weekend came with the customs office being closed, we thought, bugger this, we need a break, and we decided to get the ferry over to a nearby island called Maria. That is a beautiful, spectacular island with a fringing reef, fantastic beaches, protected anchorages, and crystal clear turquoise water.
Actually, Maria is one of the pick of the islands around that area. Tahiti's quite nice, but Maria, once you get there, there's these beautiful atolls where you could just drop the pick, crystal clear water, and we sat and drooled over these anchorages. And we just dreamt about the time that we could bring the Portofino to Maria and places like that and just sit there and, get a 2-year visa and just cruise around the beautiful waters of French Polynesia.
So the beauty of the Portofino is we have shallow draft, we can lift the centerboard and the rudders and be in 2.5 feet of water, which really means we can go where all the small motorboats can go, into the very light coloured water, not only into the deeper blue anchorages that the normal catamarans could go, and we can drive the boat directly up onto the beach. So that is just a game changer and gives you so many more options when you're in places like this. So we can't wait to take our own Portofino here to French Polynesia.
I know, we were doing these ones.
So the mooring staff sorted out with customs the paperwork and we got clearance to get out. And once that happened, we went absolutely as fast as we could. We planned the very next day to check out with customs. We stamped our passports, we cleared the boat out, and we got onto the boat.
We left the marina at about 10:30. We filled up with fuel. Duty-free fuel in French Polynesia drops the price from $2.50 a litre down to 88 cents a litre US. That is just incredible.
So we filled up more.
2 big blue
containers
of fuel.
So after filling up with fuel, we motored out towards the pass, which was diagonal through the reef with significant swell, and it was quite freaky. The very first significant driving of this boat, and we're going through this narrow diagonal passage with waves not quite breaking, but certainly washing you across towards the rocks on the other side. So we had to seriously think, is this the wise way to go, or do we detour about 15 nautical miles to get into the ship's passage on a different part of the island? We bit the bullet, I made the decision, and we motored out. Here we go through this freaky passage. It was well marked, but it was very narrow and there were significant swells rolling across it. We held our breath, we motored through the passage, paying particular care with the GPS and the depths, and where the rocks could be clearly seen on the side of the boat. And we finally got out. Thank goodness for that.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky road.
Look at the tubes either side of us.
I know. That looks like bloody good surfing.
Okay, so as we got out, it was flat calm, no wind, but these massive ocean swells that had been rolling in from a storm that had happened a week or two before. They were just undulating, so we were going up and then we were going down like all these just mountains, like mountains on the ocean. And we thought, this will sort the men from the boys. If anyone's hasn't got their sea legs yet, this will sort them out.
Within about an hour or so, John started turning a little bit green, wanting to go and lie down, sitting very quietly.
There was a few of us that had sort of queasy tummies.
So John felt this at the very beginning of the trip, which was a real shame. But with 5 other people on board, we still had plenty of people to crew the boat, and we were quite happy for John to rest until he got his sea legs, which we knew would happen over a bit of time. Some of the most famous round-the-world sailors get this. They have 2 or 3 days when they're wiped out, and then they get their sea legs, and the rest of the trip is fine. No wind, we're motoring along, trying to get away from Tahiti in the right direction, and now we're on a time limit, unfortunately. We have to drop off Rich at Tonga to get his flights, to get back to work on time, otherwise his job is at risk.
And what was coming our way were multiple lightning storms, followed by this massive 900-mile storm itself. There was a few challenges that we had to get through, right?
Yeah. After about probably an hour of motoring, we started to get a bit of wind, so eventually the engines were turned off and we started to sail in the right direction at a reasonable speed.
Day 1, lumpy, big ocean swells. A couple of people are a bit queasy. Okay, so I'm on shift. I've probably got about another 3/4 of an hour left. And we've got a little squall coming over, so we've got some showers, I think, from this fella here, this cloud here. It's our first evening at sea, sailing from Tahiti to Tonga. The ocean is calm and the sun is setting in a blaze of gold and crimson, one of those moments that make you fall in love with the voyage all over again. But if you've been on the water long enough, you know better than to be lulled into the calm seas. The signs are always there, the way the clouds start to build and shift, and the subtle change in the colour of the sky, even the faint smell of moisture carried in the wind. Weather reports gives you a clue, but never a full story. You can't predict how intense it might get, only prepare for the worst. Everything must be stowed away. No loose ropes, sails reduced or dropped and secured, hatches locked, electronics tucked safely in a Faraday cage. Everyone on board knows the drill, been ready to come on deck at a moment's notice. For now, the rest of the crew gets some rest because tonight we sail into the unknown. And all we can do is cross our fingers and hope that the weather gods are kind.
So I'm doing the graveyard shift, 12 midnight to 3 a.m. and I'm just facing a little bit of a dilemma as to what to do, which way to go, and how to avoid lightning or dark-looking ominous clouds. There's been high lightning. It hasn't come down to the sea, but high up in the clouds, there's some white fluffy clouds. There's been lightning that was just on our port bow, so I veered to the right, but there's also this big black set of clouds moving across our bow, and I've just moved progressively now veered 20 degrees off course to try and sail around the back of it. Of course, you never know what's in these clouds, and I suppose the only thing I would suggest to people is while you're sailing along, we don't
If you've got radar, that's great. You can see where the really thick clouds are, and that gives you more idea, and you can see accurately how they're moving. Fortunately, we have quite a good moon tonight, so it's quite bright. You can see things, and but without radar, you basically have to watch them, see which way they're moving, try and guess how far away they are, and look to see which ones have activity, like progressively mounting up clouds, lightning, or if you can see rain, obviously that's also a sign that there's activity in there. So it's a little bit hard to judge. This black cloud in front of us now seems to be moving away and to the left. Yeah, I've changed direction to try and avoid both the lightning on the left and the storm, or the black clouds in front of us. And now we're getting a bit of wind, not a lot, -5 knots, but more than we had before. Before, couldn't feel any wind, and it was the SpeedX was just spinning 360 degrees, which means it's just flopping around as we go over all these big waves. But I don't know that there's any clever way of doing it. You just have to pay attention to what's happening, judge distances and see which way things are going, and veer to get out of their way, basically.
So the first thing we really had to encounter after these undulating waves was the storms, the lightning storms that were all around us. There was one over here, there was one over here, and there was one behind us.
So in the distance, we could see the clouds building up on the horizon, and as we sailed further, it approached us, and the clouds built up thicker and thicker, and there was no edge to that. It was completely covering all of our horizon, and Elizabeth herself saw a cigar-shaped front that indicates a very strong wind as well.
And my reaction was, uh-oh.
So fortunately, the cigar-shaped front passed to the south of us, which was good, but we still were faced with all these thick clouds, and then the lightning started. Now, the one thing that is the most frightening thing for me when I'm at sea is lightning, because you cannot control it. You cannot predict where it's going to be. You can only try and minimize your risk by going as far from the deep, intense clouds as possible and sailing between them or around them or away from them.
So what we saw was a small gap between the storms over here and the storms over here, a very small gap. So we decided to take it, didn't we?
So yeah, when you're faced with just all blackness, you go for where the clouds look the thinnest. We went for this gap between two systems, but as we approached, the two systems basically merged over the top of us, and we considered going backwards, but there was yet another storm behind us, so that was no option either. We had to go through what we considered area of least resistance. As the clouds came over the top of us, there was first of all a horizontal sheet lightning in the sky, and then there was started to be lightning strikes down to the water, and those of course are the ones that are really frightening. As a sailor, you cannot do anything about that. You have to minimize your risk. That's one of the things I personally dislike the most. With lightning, there is only a few limited things you can do.
It's kind of like Russian roulette, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all of our electronic stuff went into the microwave ovens and the ovens.
Like a Faraday cage.
Faraday cage. There was iPads and phones and everything like that was precious. We put it in there, in and out quite a few times.
Basically so that we would have both communications, VHF radios, and also spare navigation equipment went into both the microwave and the oven, so that if we were hit by lightning and all of our other gear was fried, we would still have active electronics to use to go forward. So we wanted to minimize our time underneath these clouds where the lightning was, so we turned the motors on and going as fast as we possibly could to minimize that time. So we were basically looking upwards to see where we thought the most dense clouds were, but visibility was exceptionally poor. We did not have radar, which is very useful in this situation to know where the most intense lightning is. So we had to just use gut feeling and watch where the sparks of the lightning appeared to be the worst, and we motored through. The other thing is you need to go inside, so if there's a lightning strike, the lightning goes around the outside of the boat. There was rain, there was visibility, it was very low, we couldn't see apart from the flashes of lightning.
We just had to really draw on our skills, I guess, and our experience.
And judgment. We were watching where was the lightning occurring mostly and head away from those areas or between those areas.
You did a really good job, by the way.
It was horrible. It really was awful because you are so passive. You don't know where the lightning is going to strike. You don't have any control. You just have to sit there, cross your fingers and hope that it doesn't happen.
rain was so bad, we can't even see in front of us.
It was about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. There was about half an hour of very intense lightning, where there was high lightning and lightning hitting the sea. The lightning from these two systems started to go behind us and spread away, but there were more systems in front of us. We then did a 90-degree turn to avoid a really big another cloud in front of us, to try and get around the top edge of it. We also had to judge which direction these clouds were heading. So we're saying, well, if they're going from left to right, we need to go left, so they pass in front of us and we don't go underneath them. That is just pure observation. If you don't have radar, it's pure observation and judgment. And after about an hour and a half, we came out of the worst of it, and the clouds started to spread apart, and we seemed to be through the worst of those lightning storms. Absolutely awful. I was so grateful to be out of that. It was really, really horrible.
That's nasty.
It'd be lovely, he said.
He lied. So it was a really awful part of the trip. It was very awful. Are we still married?
Ooh, no, of course we are. Are we?
So, but this is what sailing is, you know. Take the good with the bad, and you just have to manage it when it turns ugly.
But that's what sailing does. You're at the complete mercy of the elements, and that makes you really humble and makes you appreciate the good weather when you get it.
So guys, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. It was pretty epic for us on board, and everybody having to deal with it as well. But we got through it. We lived to tell the tale. So that's what it's all about, isn't it, really? The tales that sailors can tell when they're all sitting around saying, oh, that's not a storm. I was in a storm that was blah, blah, blah.
That was nothing.
Luxury. But anyway, guys, we hope you've enjoyed this episode.
And we hope some of those clues of how to handle it in real life are useful for you too.
Yeah.
And going forward, we are going to be facing that 900-mile storm with huge winds and very, very difficult passage planning. Join us for that one, guys.
Are you coming with us, guys?
Are you brave enough?
Are you brave? Are you sure? You want to come with us? Okay.
See you later,
See you next week.
All the best.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and thanks to our awesome Patreons whose money helps us save lives around the world. Please make sure you subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss out on any of the exciting upcoming episodes. Hold on to your dreams, because like the wind in the sails, they propel you towards endless possibilities.
And now let's go for a swim in that beautiful water you've been seeing behind us.